Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Playbook of the Wealthy. My name is Dave Grant. My co-host is Heather Townsend. You're here for another episode, and we're talking about how to optimize your 401k, or if you're in the public sector, your 403b. But we're going to title it the 401k. If you are new here, our podcast is set up into 4 sections. We set it up so you can learn about us professionally, personally. We then dive deep into content, and then we answer questions related on that content. You've also got to pay some podcast tax. To do that, you got to like, comment, share, subscribe, follow, whatever you want to do. But you got to let us know that you're there so that me and Heather realize that we're not just talking to 2 people, which is my parents and one of our clients. So please. We are a financial services podcast, so you do have to listen to a disclaimer. It's a gentleman named Jordan. He's awesome. Here he is.
All opinions expressed by Dave Grant and Heather Townsend are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the views of their respective wealth management firms. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Nothing in this material constitutes a solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. Clients of Retirement Matters and Townsend Financial may maintain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast.
Now we're getting into it. So thank you for bearing with us as we go through all that. First section of our podcast, it has a number of different names, and we don't know which name it's going to be each week. So today it's going to be, Heather, how are you?
I am doing good. I have a weird thing to share that I just want to see what your face does when I share. Okay, so there's this other financial planning firm that uses the same last name Townsend in it, okay? And their CMO reached out to me and was like, we noticed we use similar names for the company. Would you be interested in having a conversation with me and the president? And at first I was like, is this phishing? I had to do some I had to look and see if she's legit, if the company's legit, right? It was legit. So I'm like, okay, I don't know about this. Time is my most valuable asset, but all right, I'll hear them out, 30 minutes. So I get on the phone with the CMO. She used to work at Goldman, very fascinating. She helps these firms with marketing. And it was the weirdest conversation, Dave, but what I'm understanding is I think they want to bring me in to help with client service and merge the firms. And I'm like, because of just the name or because of what you saw about me? It was a very weird conversation and I'm still confused.
Is this the Townsend Financial who is named after their female founder?
No.
Okay.
So
no. I don't know who you're talking about.
I know. So, I mean, it was just apparently the owner is he's like an investment nerd and just wants to deal with investments and not as much as the client servicing. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. It was interesting. You know me. I'm not looking to sell my firm, not looking to merge. She was asking, she was like, do you like working on your own? And I was like, yeah, I'm up at 5:30 every morning. No one needs to tell me to get my work done. I thrive at being an entrepreneur. I don't think I thrive being told what to do. So I don't know. I'll let you know how this progresses, but not what I expected. I don't know. It's just very weird. How are you doing?
Things are fine. Nothing new.
Wait, fine? That is, you know how I feel about the word fine, at least in the female dictionary of fine or how I use it. Fine is not good. Fine is I'm fine. I'm fine. Are you just status quo?
Yeah, fine means there's nothing new and there's nothing difficult.
I know. With men, it means no. That's great. I'm happy for you.
Let's dive in. Okay, we're talking about 401ks. There's a lot with 401ks, but we're going to talk about the good things that you can do to make your situation better and things to look out for. So, Heather, would you like to start us off?
The number one thing that I say no matter what, before any of the other things we're going to talk about today, is you have to know the match because that's free money, right? Look up the employer match. I have a story to go into this. One of my dear clients, we were talking with her fiance and I'm like, can you just look up the match? I know you don't like 401ks, but come on, we'll call him Sam. Sam, just look it up. Do you want to guess what the employer match is?
Is this the 10% that you've written down in the Google Doc?
It is 10%. That is the highest I've ever heard. 10%? That is incredible. Me and his fiance literally made him in that moment go on, enroll, and max it out, right? Like you are going
When he
to at
wasn't
least
enrolled?
no, because he hates
Oh,
401ks because he just didn't understand that. 10%, we're not giving that up. But anyways, that's free money and it's literally basically doubling your contribution. So no matter what, definitely go up to 100% of the employer match. Note there are vesting schedules for a lot of match I wanted to mention. So in this case, the 10%, the company's smart, right? I think you get 100% of it once you're there for 5 years or something, maybe 4.
mhm.
But you start getting some of it after a year of service, which at 10% is incredible.
It is. I've seen a lot of them be that graded vesting schedule. If it's a high match, it's that 1, 2, 3, 4, 20% per year. And then if you leave, you can lose all of it if it's that cliff schedule. So if you're on a 6-year vest and you leave after 5, you just lost all the match. So you got to be really careful and in the know. All right, let's talk about different ways to save in your 401k. I actually did this week. I did a review of my tax return, which, as a financial planner, we are what's the story? The cobbler's children choose. We look after our own situation last.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at my own tax situation, realized we were in a lower tax bracket and we're doing all this pre-tax savings. It was not ideal considering that my wife is going to get a healthy pension when she retires that she'll pay taxes on. So our 401k withdrawals will all be taxable too, and we'll just push ourselves higher and higher. So understand if you are saving pre-tax, Roth, or after tax, and which ones should you be doing. That is difficult to understand if you're not well versed in this and how your tax return situation is. So I would understand, okay, if I am in a lower tax bracket, lower, we're talking, say, 22% and lower. Chances are you should be saving to the Roth portion of your 401k, if that isn't even an option. If that's not an option, then you just want to pause and say, should I be doing a Roth IRA instead and not even do the 401k yet? But if you're going above that tax bracket, then I would go to the pre-tax. And then if you are maxing out and you still have more money that you want to save, then you can start to look at doing after tax in your 401k, because then you have some fun opportunities with that.
Yeah, I agree. 22, 24, I pretty much consider at that point, if I don't know if my client's income is going to increase, maybe they're just going to stay in the 22, 24, like your wife. She's a teacher. So, not huge increases in pay, right? But exec clients or younger clients that start with us that are on the track to be execs, if they're in the 22, 24 now, I might prioritize Roth now. And then once they bump up to 32 and above, I am 100% pre-tax up to the employer, right? The interesting thing on after tax, this is my opinion, but I only think you should do after tax if the 401k is set up to do the mega backdoor Roth. Some of them, weirdly, that I found, Dave, have the after tax portion, but they don't convert to Roth within the plan. Or one of my execs, I asked, they had the after tax, but they would only convert once a year. I make sure that they can convert per pay period. That's the question I have them ask. And normally they have to go to HR or something, but that's where I think it works really well. So, my high income earning clients were doing pre-tax 100%, 23.5 this year, 23,500 pre-tax. And then normally we do around 10% after tax. Let's say they're making 200,000 a year, a base. So that's another 20,000 a year that they're putting in after tax, but converting to Roth. So they're getting 43.5 in their 401k, and it's just automatically being taken out of their paycheck. It's brilliant. They don't even feel that they're saving.
Yeah, I definitely love people doing the mega backdoor Roth conversion. For people who don't know, that's how you can contribute to a Roth IRA if you're over the income limits. And you want to use your 401k to kind of supercharge this. I'm not too concerned if it's a per payroll that you can convert or it's once a year, because I think the power in doing it, just given the dollar amounts people are doing, it just compounds on itself. So I think for me, that's not a big deal.
Don't forget catch-ups, right? So what is it this year again? You and I keep laughing. What is it? Is it 61 to 60? 63, someone can do like an extra 11,250. Otherwise, it's
Age 60. I got this wrong the other day. I said 61, and it's actually age 60 to 63.
60 to 63. You can do an extra 11,250 of pre-tax or Roth, right? If you're not those specific ages, you could do catch up of 7,500 if you're above 50. Then I look at investment options. This is also where, I don't know about you, but I determine how much are we really going to supercharge this 401k? Because I've had a few where I'm going to use a name, John Hancock, right? Or Northwestern Mutual, these like insurance companies that are trying to create 401ks, and the expense ratios are through the roof. If the investment options are horrible, which I had this happen to one of my clients, we actually kept her old 401k and we're still maxing out the new because she's in such a high tax bracket, but we didn't roll over her old 401k into the new 401k.
Okay. Now, all right, sidebar, do you do much of that 401k to 401k rollover, or do you typically go 401k to IRA rollover? We're going to touch on this later, but just a quick question.
Most of the time, I do 401k to 401k rollover because, your clients are retirees most of the time. So very different than my clients that are in asset accumulation. For my asset accumulator clients, we're doing the backdoor Roth, which you can't have any traditional IRA balances. So I don't want that. And then we're doing sometimes even the mega backdoor Roth, right? Like we're supercharging, my clients that are in high income, we're trying to put as much stuff in tax deferred and, where dividends and interest isn't spitting off. So I'm doing the mega backdoor Roth and the backdoor Roth for some. And so we do 401k to 401k. That is not for the clients that have like a John Hancock Northwestern Mutual situation though. Then I have to really think about it. But in most of those situations, I've actually had my clients like speak up and tell HR, like, we need to get a better 401k plan. I've literally told them that, like, go talk to HR. This is horrible. They're not being a true fiduciary of the 401k plan.
Yeah. And it's not hard to get new 401k providers in to do a presentation and pick a new one. It's not hard.
No. And I could give a recommendation, right? I will say what's interesting for retirees, though, which you've probably seen, and I know we're going to touch on this, but I'm just going to go into it. When the clients retire, though, unless we're in the rule of 55, which again, we'll go through, I do want to move it out of the 401k because 401ks typically do have higher fees, right? Just administration. The mutual funds are so that it's not as liquid. It doesn't trade until end of day. And the interesting things is it's hard to do the buckets because when a 401k, at least the one with my client that's in rule of 55 right now, when they pull their monthly distribution out, it takes per the allocation. We can't cherry pick, okay, take from this specific fund, right? So that's one. And it automatically withholds at 20%. You can't change it. Whereas IRAs, you can control the withholding.
If you're confused as to what Heather was talking about with rule of 55, if you have a 401k and you are 55 and you've left your job, you can take money out without penalty. But as soon as you roll that to an IRA, that age moves from 55 to 59 and a half. So it's worthwhile to keep your money in a 401k if you retire early. All right, let's talk about if your funds are terrible, what do you do? So most 401ks are going to have target date funds in. So target date funds, if you can't build a good allocation in your 401k, that's going to be your default. Again, you want to look under the hood of a target date fund. Don't just pick it based on the year, but you're going to look and see what the investments are and see if that aligns with your portfolio and what your desired risk profile is. And then you're going to pick that and you just throw your money in it each pay period. The nice thing on some progressive 401ks is they do have what's called a brokerage window, which means that you're not tied to the 401k funds themselves. You can actually go and invest in the entire stock market if you choose to elect to use this window, that's what it's called, in your 401k. So you can build your own portfolio and not be restricted to the funds in the 401k. That depends on the 401k design. Not all of them have this, and some of them are still stuck in 20 years ago and giving you 6 funds.
The other thing I've done, Dave, with bad investment options, maybe some are okay. Like maybe they do have an S&P index fund that's, low expense ratio. That's the best we can do. So then I more build their allocation around the 401k. I've done that where I pick the best fund in their 401k and then use their other accounts, Roth, brokerage, to kind of build around the 401k and cherry pick that way.
Yeah. That's where your ordinary investor is not going to be able to do that.
Yes, true.
Like that's going to be, you need an advisor to start to build that portfolio design for you. I'm not saying that people can't, but I've never seen someone do that by themselves.
Yeah, that's complicated. That I have to do in a spreadsheet.
What? Do you like spreadsheets?
I'm sorry. I am still in spreadsheets with my investment models. Make fun of me. Just make fun of me. It's fine. I do. Clients that have come to me, been accumulating assets for a while, they have accounts everywhere, spread around different custodians. So maybe Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab, you name it. And it's messy. And they have old 401ks that they've left. It's just a disaster. I love it. I love the cleanup process, but it's not what I recommend, even if people are doing this on their own. It is better to combine accounts, for like, don't just leave your old 401ks because then you don't know what's going on with them. Sometimes if they're below a certain limit, they'll just convert them to cash into an IRA. I've seen that. And then it's just been sitting in cash for years. So just make sure you watch them. I would normally roll over your old 401k into your new one, to be honest, especially if you're doing this on your own.
There's companies that search for it. I think there's one called Beagle that will search for your old 401ks based on your social security number.
Oh my, Beagle. What a cute name. It kind of makes me want to use them. Beagle. Yeah.
I mean, it's a problem that a lot of people have, and they have made companies around it.
That's smart, actually. Because I bet some people don't know. Imagine if you're 50 and you're like, I don't remember. Like, you're finally getting savvy, but you maybe contributed and you don't remember what that company was called or something. I don't know. I could see that. That's good.
Or if that company's gone through a buyout multiple times and it's gone through different plan administrators, you have no chance of finding out where that is unless you go back and you just follow that timeline. And who wants to do that?
That is a great point. That's also why, thank you, you just added to my argument. That is exactly why you need to know where they are, roll it over because of that. Now there's supposed to be an automatic increase for people with their 401k. So if you start at 5 or something, automatically it will increase by 1 a year until you max out. I think that's amazing. And I have had my younger clients, when we're enrolling in their 401k, before it was required, Heather, should I do automatic increase? Yes. How much? 1. Fine. Just do 1. Just do 1. But then, like 5 years later, they're maxing out and they never felt it. It's brilliant.
All right. I'm going to tell you a problem I've had with 2 clients this year when they are leaving their jobs.
Ooh,
and this is one that if it goes wrong, it goes really, really wrong. So let's say you're working, high income. Let's say you're 250 plus.
Okay.
It's very easy to max out your 401k mid-year if you're just doing a percentage of your income.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Let's say you max it out by the time you hit to June. Then you change jobs in August and you go to a company that auto-enrolls you in the 401k. The 401k limit is based on you over a calendar year. Doesn't matter how many companies you work at, doesn't how many 401ks you have. It is your limit and it gets filed on your tax return. So if you then max out at one company and then file and get auto-enrolled at another company, you're going to over-contribute to a 401k. You're going to get penalized on your tax return, and then you have to go back and unwind all of those contributions and then revise all of your payroll to get that back into your paycheck. You're going to become payroll's worst enemy if you leave this too long because they're going to hate you because they're going to have to revise all this payroll.
That is such a good point, and probably a whole nother episode in itself we should do is if you are high income and leaving your employer, these are the things you have to check. I mean, it's not just 401k, right? It's HSA, it's benefits. There is so much in it. I've had that problem with a client too. And luckily we caught it before tax season, but getting the check and then I forget all the rules again, but I think it has to be like taxed on the earnings and it's a whole mess. It is an absolute mess. And dealing with the 401ks, sometimes sadly, they don't even understand. I'll literally be like, the client already maxed out. You need to zero this out. And they're like a robot. Yeah, but we need to have automatic withdrawal. No, They already maxed out. They legally cannot contribute. Like, oh dear gosh.
You would think it'd be a question. Like if you're hiring someone who's earning 300 grand, you probably want to say, have you maxed out your 401k? Because it's already September. And then we won't enroll you. We'll do it in January. You would think that'd be a question, but it's not.
It should. That is a great point.
Let's move on to what would you do? All right. Question number 1. I started a new job and I have a 401k with 300,000 in it at my previous employer. Should I roll it to my new 401k?
I think it depends. I think go through the steps. First off, I'd be like, how are the investment options? And if it's a pretty good 401k, yes, especially because then you can still keep yourself open to do the backdoor Roth. So I'd say yes. If the investment options are horrible and fees are high, consider probably not.
Yeah. You only have 3 options. You can leave it alone, move it to the new 401k, or move it to an IRA. So you're going to do one of them.
Yeah, don't pull it out and pay taxes on all of that, please. Roll over.
Yeah, I love how we never give that as an option, even though that person can do that. Like, why on earth would you do that? It's so unnecessary.
Why? 10% extra penalty plus tax? No. All right. I started looking at my 401k, and we have options of where our money gets invested. Should I use a target date fund or build my own portfolio?
So it depends. Take a look at the target date funds. So I think you're going to understand, okay, how many options do I have? Are there a lot? And what's the expense ratio, like we keep mentioning? And what do I have available in terms of assets inside that target date fund? Does it match up with my risk profile? Also understand, do you like investing? Do you have a lot of interest in building your own portfolio? Or do you just want to have an investment where you can say, okay, I just want to throw this money in and it just rides and I don't have to care? So once you get that out the way, if you're building your own portfolio, are you doing that with the fund choices inside the 401k, or do you have a brokerage window? If you have crappy fund choices, you may want to just do the target date fund. If you have a brokerage window and you have the knowledge, definitely go that route, because you can build a really cheap portfolio that's well diversified, and it's essentially like you're not investing in a 401k at all.
But be careful. When you said, do you love investing? I'm like, oh gosh. And I say this with love, but sometimes people love investing and then they chase the returns in the funds in the 401k. I've seen this, right? Like this year, people might be throwing all their money in developed markets because it's outperforming than the US. But that's not a diversified portfolio strategy. So if you don't know anything about investing, just target date fund.
All right, question number 3. I'm wanting to retire at age 57, but my problem is most of my wealth is in my 401k. I have enough, but I need to pull from my 401k. Am I going to have to pay the 10% penalty to pull funds until I'm 59 and a half?
We already talked about this. The rule of 55. No! Keep it in your 401k. I think a lot of people, they leave their employer, and maybe they're leaving because they're like, I'm so excited. I'm retired. I want nothing to do with my company anymore, and I'm going to roll this thing over. Nope, you're not. You're going to keep it there until you are 59 and a half, so that you can pull it out without the 10% penalty. It's amazing. I love that little rule of 55.
I'm going to stop you there, because that is not entirely true. Let's say you have a crappy 401k and you want to retire. There's not good fund choices. They're really expensive. If you roll it to an IRA,
fair.
You can do the strategy called 72T if you need the money. I am not going into 72T in the strategy. That's too complex for this podcast. But it allows you to take the money out without the 10% penalty.
That's where you have to pick, with the 72T, if I'm remembering right though, you have to pick a certain amount that's taken over a certain period. Why is 5 years coming to my head or something? Is that you have to like basically lock yourself in a plan, right? For a certain amount of years.
It's the greater of 5 years or until you're 59 and a half.
Okay.
So if you're 57, you got no choice. You got to stick on that plan till you're 62.
There's always ways. I have not, most of my 401ks from my clients have been good, thank gosh. So that's why I haven't had to go that route.
Yeah. It's when you get into the world of 403Bs that you realize there's some crappy plans out there because those aren't regulated by ERISA. Not going down that road either, but some of them are really bad. All right, we're done with what would you do. We're moving into highlights. These are our personal wins, our highlights of the week. So here we go. All right, let me give you a story. I love working outside in the yard, whether it's grass maintenance or flowers. All right, this is going to tell you how picky I am. My backyard had a slight slope to it. So I got my landscaper to throw a whole bunch of dirt down and level that thing out. With the amount of dirt, it killed the grass. So then I got him to seed it on top with a hay barrier and a mesh barrier. There's a huge tree root that goes underneath that part of the grass, and there's a lot of shade, so that seed didn't take. I already knew that was going to happen, and I thought that my landscaper could work magic. It was still a dirt pile this year, so I had to pay to have him sod it, and that wasn't cheap. And now I'm watering every 5 minutes to make sure that grass takes. So if you're going to do something, do it right the first time, else it will cost you money.
Oh, it's so true. Isn't that what I told you this week about my remodel and how I'm now in this about to do this full-blown remodel because I didn't do it right the first time? Oh, geez.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy. Well,
all right. What about you? What's your highlight?
My highlight is, all right, one of my friends asked what the story was, so I got to share. I got to go back to that diamond ring story. So I was having a really bad day. I went to yoga to unwind, and I took off my wedding band and ring and left it by the mat. And what did I forget when I left the yoga studio? Now, this is really important because one, this is a real diamond. This was before lab diamonds were a thing. And my husband he bought me a very nice ring. Let's just put it that way. It is very expensive to insure. So I got home on my bad day and realized, no, I didn't even know that I left my ring. This is how bad it was. And then I got a text in the morning. Heather, did you leave something really important at the studio? And then I immediately just went into panic. Hopefully my husband doesn't hear that I didn't really notice at night that I was missing my wedding ring. Okay. But I have always said that if I'm going to lose something or leave something valuable, leave it at a yoga studio because yogis don't steal. Yogis just don't steal. It's not in us. That's just not who we're about. And the owner nicely held it for me. She didn't even trust putting it in the safe and returned it to me. And then I wrote the nicest 5-star. I was like, how can I help you? What can I do? You have no idea. You've saved a huge argument in my marriage and all these things. And it's just, there's really nice people in this world. And it was just really amazing. She could have made a lot of money off of just going and selling my ring. And there would have been nothing I could have done about it. So I just wanted to end on a happy note that there are really good people in this world still. So I was very thankful. That day could have gotten way worse.
I remembered that on the podcast when you're like, do you want to hear a story about a diamond ring or something else? And I was like, something else, please. So thanks for sharing that story too.
Oh, so now you like the diamond ring story, Dave? I
like the other one better.
You don't even remember what the other one is. Yeah.
I don't know what it was. I was appliances or diamond rings, and that's why I chose appliances. Okay, now I remember.
Going back to the appliances, how I thought I saved money, I went back to the original quote. They changed the company on me, so it wasn't apples to apples. So I didn't end up really saving all that much money on appliances, just so we go back to that.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you should sell a diamond ring and then you can put that money toward. No. All right. Well, we are done. Thank you for listening to this episode of Playbook of the Wealthy. You can find us on whichever platform you listen to podcasts, or the video version of this show is on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. If If you want to send an email to the show, you can. We are at hello@playbookotw.com, and we'll see you next time.
Toodles!